Welcome to the Hot Lava Podcast. Kevin Acee, Padres beat writer for the Union-Tribune. There's Ryan Finley, sports editor for the Union-Tribune. I am in Toronto. Padres, Blue Jays, 3 games coming up. It's the first half of a 6-game road trip. Go to Atlanta next. And my thoughts on the road trip and why it's important. Everything's important now. We're closing in on the 1/4 point of the season. Ryan, we're coming off a sweep by the Mariners. Where would you like to start?
The Padres are not playing very good baseball. I think that's where I want to start. I think oftentimes we get hung up on wins and losses and, hey, that's what counts, right? But it's not just that they're losing. It's that they're losing on not playing particularly well. Their bullpen has not been great. And their superstars are slumping a little bit, starting with Jackson Merrill. What have we seen so far there? And, Manny Machado a little bit too, sort of down in the dumps. So what's happening?
Yeah, of all the research I was doing before the game, I should have done my research on what they were in this series. But let's say 0 for 6 with 2 walks, 0 for 8 combined the day before. And I didn't finish this book, but let's see. In the first game, they were 0 for 4, 1 for 4, so 1 for 8. So whatever that all adds up to, Jackson Merrill and Manny Machado in the Seattle series were not good, and that's your number 3 and 4 hitter, and you're not going to win many games, especially when you're built around your stars, right? So you have Fernando Tatis Jr. is hitting 222, I believe it is, over the last 15 games or whatever. Now, he has 4 home runs. And I don't want to then segue right into another corner outfielder because I don't want to put him in the same bucket, but Jason Hayward is a void in the lineup right now. You mentioned the bullpen, and there you have it. I think it's since the start of that one trip where they went to Houston, they lost 2 of 3. So that would be the 18th of April. I believe it is 2 games under 500 in 28 games. So you're right. Not playing well, even by the record. Even though I'd love to go into their overall record and where they're at this point of the season and what that means in terms of likelihood they make the playoffs. But you got to look at chunks. And this chunk of the season, they're not playing or they're not winning. And then if you go these 3 games, here's what stuck out to me. And I don't know what your thoughts were. I know you watch every game. I wrote after the first game in the newsletter, well, that was a rare clunker. And then came game 2 and game 3. And I could have written the same thing. They just didn't play well. That shows how, and to Mike Schilt pointed it out. I think I had pointed out in that newsletter that shows how well they've been playing. But okay, that's like, polishing a turd.
Well, and Jackson Merrill, you had a great note about Jackson Merrill really struggling, and this is a guy, we forget since we've been talking about him for a year and a half now that this is still a guy who's still relatively new to the game. This is a guy who's not had a lot of slumps as a Major League Baseball player. And I thought your conversation with him was somewhat telling. He's baffled a little bit. He had been sick a little bit. And he said, baseball's really hard. He said, that's why I love it, but baseball's really hard. A rare dose of humanity from a guy who's made baseball look really easy here for the last year plus.
Yeah, this is if we're going to call 5 games, 1 for 19, a slump, and I think we can, especially if we use in the context of a burgeoning star who has only had 2 previous slumps. Like last year was amazing. I had a chart in I've run it before, one like it, where Jackson Merrill started batting over 300, on-base percentage not great. Then over the course of 6 games went 0 for 19, right? All of his numbers were zeros, didn't even walk. Then goes on a tear of 50 games where over 300, slugging's up, on base is up. Then has 10 games in July around the All-Star break where slump, bad 180 or something, and wasn't hitting homers or doubles. And then from July 19th, I believe it was, to the end of the season, the numbers were monster. They were top 10 across the board in the major leagues. He does not slump, and when he comes out of them, he goes back to being Jackson Merrill. That's the small sample size we have, at least. But I would bet you that tells us that we can look forward here and go, okay, he's going to come out of this, and he's going to come out of this not, doing very well.
Yeah, yeah. But, again, it's been a struggle for him, a struggle for Machado. Staying in the outfield, Kevin, it's clear to me, I don't know if you'll go this far. It's clear to me that the Padres need a left fielder. Jason Hayward's been bad. Brandon Lockridge has been sort of thrown in to the situation to see what he can run with. He's been better, but still not what I would call good. At what point do they start looking somewhere else? I mean, there was a move that was made yesterday, and we can get into it here in a little bit. That means, Oscar Gonzalez isn't going to be part of their mix. At what point do the Padres really start looking from to the outside for a left fielder?
Yeah, I think they're looking now is what I believe. And when I say something like that, it's like educated speculation. No one's told me, yeah, this is what we're doing and this is who we're looking at. But you have conversations, you can tell. Now, that looking could go on for a month or a month and a half. I don't think it will. I don't know that Jason Hayward will be gone this weekend, but they do face 3 right-handers. I haven't looked at their splits. They have found every possible reason to not have Jason Hayward in the lineup against the right-handers they faced. 3 of the last 4, in fact, he has been on the bench. They tried Lockridge there. They tried Sheets. I thought Gonzalez, maybe deserved another shot before you cut ties with him or before you said, okay, all this guy is AAA depth, right? Clearly, Oscar Gonzalez saw something else written on the wall, and clearly the Padres did. So that would go along with what I thought, which was like, there's promise there, just like with the Guardians. But he wasn't anything special. I promise you that long-term, the Padres were not saying, oh, well, we've got Oscar Gonzalez. Because if they thought that, he would have been up in the majors. Because Hayward has just been terrible.
Yep. For those who missed it, Oscar Gonzalez is the Padres released him yesterday with the intent of letting him go play in Japan. There's a report out there that says that he signed with the Golden Eagles already. And so that would be it. Kevin, it's funny. You and I talked about Oscar Gonzalez a lot on this show, probably more than we should have. But this is a big, strong kid, sort of in his mid to late 20s, prime of his career type stuff. What is the thinking when you let a guy with that kind of promise just go away for free? Is it just trying to do right by the player? Is it freeing up a 40-man roster spot? What is it?
It's both. It's that, look, we don't think this is the guy that is going to be the solution. He wants to go play somewhere, make some money, maybe find himself. That happens for guys, different types of pitching, different teaching, finds himself and then still has an opportunity to come back to the United States and play in the major leagues. And maybe that's an opportunity that turns into something for him. And then it's all right, we're going to have to make a move. I mean, this is like everything, how Hayward's being used, Gonzalez being let go. It's pointing to they're looking and that eventually something's going to happen. You know what else is more than anything is the 175 or 180, whatever it is, batting average, and like 120 over the last, I think since like April 30th or something. So like, and it's just the same old stuff. Now we can't just say this is age. Jason Hayward has been doing this for a while where 3/4 of the balls he puts in play are just rolled over to second base. I mean, it's not productive. It's not competitive. Now, he was, for a time, finding a way to get on base like savvy veterans do. And I think that, plus his value inside the clubhouse, in the dugout, is maybe what had him having, or not maybe, is definitely what had him having a longer leash than, say, Yuli Gurriel. But I think you're correct that this is close to finished unless Jason Hayward in his next start, gets hot.
Can I tell you how bad I feel for Gavin Sheets? First of all, let's start with this. There was a Q&A with Gavin Sheets that ran over the weekend that was really, really good. And if for those who are listening, go back and read it. Go to our website, find it. Fantastic. You come away really liking the human being, right? Good guy. Seems like a good guy. They put him out in left field, and to me, they go, okay, Gavin Sheets, run with it, right? And what does he do? loses his glove over the outfield fence, trying to field a home run. Is this at all a possibility? Can he play left field for this team regularly?
He did okay. He did okay in spring. It wasn't great, but guess what? There's a lot that weren't great or that aren't great that play there every day.
Right.
The question I don't think the question is so much, can he do it defensively? The question is, can he do it defensively and continue to hit? Right? Can he play every day, be out in the field, basically learning a position, putting the energy into that and do it. Then also, who's your DH? So then you still have an issue of where you're finding your bat. You did it on Sunday by putting Manny Machado there. Okay, you could do that by putting Xander Bogaerts there one day and Luis Ariz there one day and maybe Jake Cronenworth there one day, maybe. But you're not going to do that. You're not going to just rotate guys. You're just not. So you now are creating a hole there. So it's one or the other, and I would think that it's the left field spot that they would want to find a bat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now at the El Paso Chihuahuas outfielders. This does not bode well, probably, for help coming. They have Bryce Johnson, who we know from last year was the fifth outfielder towards the end of last season. Tim Locastro, remember him? Big league veteran,
It's
not
a big time 4A player right there.
Big time 4A player. Tirso Ornelas, he's had his chance and did not do particularly well. And then Forrest Wall. Now, Forrest Wall is a guy who they liked, right? Forrest Wall hung around for a while in spring training, but you can't learn on the fly. I think that this is my takeaway with this team right now. The Padres are good. They think they can make the playoffs and win a series or two. You're not going to be auditioning dudes in left field in the middle of the season, are you?
I'm sorry. It was one of those times where you went. What's the final question? Sorry, I'm in Canada. Sure, who knows how it got lost?
Sure, you're not going to audition dudes in left field in the middle of a pennant race, are you?
Right, and those guys are all outfielders who and so it depends on what the definition of audition. If one of those guys was impressing you, you'd bring them up because you still have time to find out if they can play up here. What I think is the Padres believe that, no, that's not who we want. We don't want to give them that audition. And then certainly as you get later, no, you're not auditioning. Absolutely. And we are definitely getting close to the time where, you know what, we need an answer there. We don't need a question there. We need an answer there. So yeah, the guy I would be, and darn it, and please don't hate me, East County, and I don't know what he's doing. I wish I had a lifeline to call to call Jeff Sanders right now. The first baseman played not at Grossmont. He's on the AAA roster. They tried him in left field. I don't know how often he's been playing there. I don't know what it's looked like. I haven't followed up on it, but they had tried him, and he was hitting the cover off the ball, of course, at El Paso, but he was hitting, really well, and I'd be interested there. But again, to your point, we're getting a little late for auditions.
Sure. Trenton Brooks is the guy who you're talking about.
Thank you. Yes.
Trent Brooks.
Thank you.
In a place where everybody hits, he's hitting, but he's not killing it. He's hitting 267.
Then it's come down.
Yeah, 267, just 7 home runs, but 878 OPS. I mean,
I think it was up in the, when I saw it was up in the 9s, and before that it was up. So he's come down. So yeah, right. To your, then it's something from the outside, and it's just sort of inevitable. It's just like I hate to say it. I'm always rooting for guys like Jason Hayward, but it's just sort of inevitable.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. Luis Campusano, by the way, it's worth doubling back on this because it's interesting to me. He's hitting 333 with an OPS of 1100. Is there room for him?
They've got him. They had him play first base, I guess. Certainly. If that was a move they wanted to make, you got to decide who goes down. Or I guess if you let go of Hayward and you're going to put Sheets out there, sure. He came up here, did not look good, except for pitch selection, and it was a small sample size. To me, though, this is me. Really didn't even. There's so much going on. I didn't even have a chance to ask anyone, or I didn't think to ask anyone. Combination of the two, what they thought. But, I've been watching Campusano for 6 years now. He looked like Campusano to me. So whatever's happening down there in AAA, he looked like Luis Campusano to me. So
Right. Right. I think it's telling a little bit here. He's played something like 34 games, 33 games, I'm sorry, in AAA this year. He's caught 21 of them. He's DH'd 11 times, and he's played first base once for 9 innings. Again, I don't know if he can help you. And I feel like we've seen enough of Luis Campusano to know who he is, but I don't know.
I feel they feel that way. That was, kind of the word earlier. But now you're in a situation, and situations change, and also players change. So if they liked what they were seeing, he'd be here. And so maybe he will if they make a move before they get a left fielder. So because on the other hand, I say I've been seeing him for 6 years. There's only been a couple of those stretches that were like real chances, and you could argue only one of those stretches, right, where he played regularly. So you could argue, let's give it another try.
I would say let's give it another try as a right-handed hitting first baseman or a DH. Maybe sort of the Connor Joe situation, like one of those. Now, Kevin, you and I talked about this, 3 years ago. And I know when we talked about it, I believe it was when I was interviewing for this job, which is if they like the way Campusano hits, but they don't really like the way he interacts with pitchers, can he hit enough to justify a roster spot at DH or at first base? To me, that's the question. Maybe not. Maybe not in the big leagues. I don't know.
Well, it appears they're at least kind of considering that. Look, I've sort of moved on, and maybe that's, my mistake, because the only way this guy's catching for the Padres again is if one of these two guys, Maldonado or Diaz, gets hurt or starts hitting 100. Right. So, I'm kind of like, and then, like I said, like he's not here. So there's a reason, because if this guy were raking down there and looking, because that's what they do. They've constantly, not only do, their staff there, they constantly have eyes on the players there because of the way the numbers can be misleading. Look at how they brought up Stephen Kolek. Look at his numbers in AAA, and they brought up Stephen Kolek, right? If they thought that he was going to come up and help, he'd be here, because their offense isn't great right now. Now, I also want to talk about, I didn't mention this when we were talking about how they've struggled lately, going back, say, 28 games. Let's see, Cronenworth missed 16 of those games. And, you have to include Jake Cronenworth when you're talking about what you were missing because of how he's hit this year. Jackson Merrill missed 15 games, I believe. Arise was out 6 of those. Like, there also is that, right? We're still just getting back into, okay, the Padres have everyone. So.
Right. But I don't know about you. This is the time of year when I look at rosters of bad teams and try to go, if the Padres were to try to do something, does Ryan McMahon make sense, right? Left-handed hitting outfielder playing for an all-time bad Rockies team. I don't necessarily know what he's owed. He may be too expensive, but actually he's an infielder though. Ooh.
When's
right.
the last time?
You were 1,000%. Oh God. Yeah. He doesn't make sense at all then. Yes.
Yeah. Huh. I know that was just a brain slip there. You're but it happened. Believe me. Oh boy.
We can cut that out in post, can't we, John? I think we can. Mickey Moniak. I'm thinking of young, controllable, can hit left-handed, is San Diego guy. Do those guys make sense? How
about cheap-ish and can hit a bit, right? Because if Jason Hayward were hitting 240, I just don't know that we'd be, and they were winning, right? Because 240 is a big jump from whatever it's been, 120 over the last 15 games or whatever. Like, I just don't know that we'd be having the conversation. We might still be keeping an eye on it. Could he last the whole season? But we wouldn't be having the immediacy conversation.
Right. Would the Orioles part ways with somebody like a Cedric Mullins, left-handed hitting outfielder? I mean, I think ideally you'd prefer somebody left-handed because maybe you think that the short side of that platoon, you can patch it with somebody like a Lockridge, right? There's enough pieces to move around. I think this is the time of year when, if you're fairly certain the Padres are looking, be really interested to see who they're looking at.
You have to remember too, like they gave up Connor Joe, right? Like, so these are the places where I defer to the baseball people who have made an awful lot of good moves. But this is not to say that questioning them is wrong, because they're human and we can list some bad moves too of guys they've let go or whatever. But when they let Connor Joe and Oscar Gonzalez go, they've made the decision, these guys aren't the answer there. That doesn't mean they're saying they suck. They're saying these guys aren't the answer at the level we want to be playing at that position.
Right. Where's David Peralta when you need him?
Well, he wants a certain amount of money, and I don't know that you're going to plug him in left every day. And but yeah, then I'll defer there as well. I mean, David Peralta, sometimes when a guy reaches a certain age, he, for lack of a better way to say it, because why would I know how to say something correctly, purposely prices himself out of the market. As in, he wants to play, but he ain't coming back and going through this grind and being away from the kids who are young and his wife for less than a certain amount. Right. And that's David Peralta.
Right. And he has made enough money in his career that he can do that. Right.
Yes, there you go. I mean, it's just, so, and that doesn't mean the guy doesn't want to play or you wouldn't want him on your team, or like, oh, if he's all about, no, it's just, there are other considerations in life. And if you're going to go through what you have to go through, then you don't want to do it for $1 million. And some guys do want to do it for $1 million.
Right. He's 37 years old. I mean, there was a time, and again, we talk about David Peralta as if he saved their season last year, and he didn't. He was a good piece. There was a stretch.
He was a good piece, but go ahead.
There's a stretch last year when he thought he was done too. Remember, were they in Boston?
Yes.
They were in Boston.
Go from that point, and he was one of their best players, and now he's being able to be used properly, but I don't know if they make the playoffs without David Peralta. So
Right. No, it's interesting. I want to talk about the Manny Machado story that ran in today's UT. It was posted online last night. Kevin, I don't know where you find the hours in the day, but you wrote a lengthy, insightful, really nuanced story about Manny Machado, who here on Sunday will be a Padre as long as he's been an Oriole, or as long as he was an Oriole. I thought really interesting. Give me some of the high points from your reporting, Manny Machado thing, and what compelled you to write that story now?
Well, sort of the timing, but also all the other things that are happening around the Padres and that people are excited about, and should be excited about. And we're talking about Fernando Tatis being who, we thought he was, right? Jackson Merrill, all the excitement around the team. And I'm not saying that people forget Manny, but I wanted to make sure they remembered this guy. You talk about a face of the franchise and what all that encompasses, right? That's Manny Machado. Manny Machado changed this team. And in that, I was able to also write about something that I've been so incredibly impressed by, and that is Manny Machado's growth. And I'm not saying like that surprised me or I'm not saying anything about it other than that a lot of people don't change, and especially people that are successful. That can be the enemy of change. Well, what I do works for me. Well, Manny Machado bought into the fact that, hey, maybe there's some things I can do better as a teammate, as a leader. And he bought in, and I give him credit. I give other people that came around him from the start, Ron Fowler, AJ Preller, Peter Seidler, the way that Mike Schilt has been sort of a Manny whisperer, I think, is a part of the story. But I just couldn't be more impressed. Now, I'm someone that is impressed by change. I know how hard it is, and I see a lot of people don't do it. So to me, that was a big part. A man who changed the Padres while changing himself. Right. That to me was the story on Manny. I have always said, look, I'm the kind of guy. Look, talk to Jake Cronenworth about Manny Machado. Always been his captain. Always been his leader. Jake Cronenworth is like I would be if I had any talent that way as a baseball player in the major leagues. I'd run through a wall for Manny because Manny's posting every day and he's hurt. Jake Cronenworth could care less what else Manny's doing, really. And there are other guys like that feel that way, but that wasn't. If you're going to be the all-encompassing leader, there's some other things involved in walking the walk and all that. So there was a segment that didn't respond to Manny as a leader, and Manny has become, if not the all-encompassing leader, because another part of the story is that guys like Cronenworth, guys like Xander Bogaerts, Joe Musgrove have stepped up in terms of taking some things off Manny's plate. It's like a leadership council that was sort of created under Schilt. Schilt barely in the clubhouse, doesn't have to be. You can talk to Manny, you can talk to Joe, you can talk to Jake, and then they can talk to players. And I just think Manny finding his place and Manny finding his footing as a dad, as a player, as a leader, huge.
I think that one of the most interesting points you make in the story, and again, if you haven't read it, read it. Give yourself 20 minutes because it's lengthy, really good. Is the concept that by demanding that he do less, you sort of have empowered him to do more, right? By saying, hey, you get kind of a more authentic style of leadership when you're not over a guy's shoulder saying, why aren't you leading this team, right? And that's, to me, what's the difference? Well, to me, the one variable that's changed is Mike Schilt, right? Is
very true. Now
there was
talk. Now,
different managers
absolutely
have asked him to do different things. Nobody's gotten the results out of him that Mike Schilt has.
Yep. And credit to AJ Preller, Eric Grupner, the people that hired Mike Schilt, and credit to Preller, who also has over the years talked with Manny quite a bit. Credit to Manny for listening. In the end, it's always, as Mike Schilt says, players get the credit. You know why? Because they're the ones that have to do it, right? And think about someone in your life who has made adaptations, changed. People maybe had to tell them to do it, but guess what? They had to do it. And I just could not be more impressed with Manny. I'm not saying Manny is a perfect human being. Manny can still be a big challenge. But who among us cast the first stone? Glass houses, that sort of thing. I grade every human on a curve. So as I would like to be graded. So I think I just couldn't think more highly of this process of Manny's maturation.
I think that he gets overlooked a little bit because he's not as volatile, and I mean volatile for good and bad, as some of the other guys on this team. Manny Machado is Manny Machado. You know what you're getting every day. You know what you're getting in the field. Consistent, excellent defense. You know that his stats are going to end up right around the same place every year. That's what good teams have. That's not necessarily the newest, shiniest object on the roster, right? Manny's been around a long time. If you ask, say, my kids, they will tell you, hey, it's all about Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis and
absolutely
name the young guy of the week, right? If you ask somebody a little bit older like me, I think it starts with Manny, because you need to be that guy every day. Good teams have those players, right? Great teams have those players who just go to the post every day.
No, not that I had any illusions that your kids or anyone their age would read the story, but that's basically kind of who I was talking to a little bit, right? Though I do think that Manny was sort of not owed, but it was right to do that story on Manny, because of who he is, regardless of what people think or anything like that. But the fact that he's somewhat undervalued, somewhat misunderstood, somewhat as, hey, commit the crime, do the time, but somewhat has some old sins held against him when it's been a long time since he was that guy. And again, glass houses, how were you acting when you were 22? I felt the story was worth it anyway, but your point right there is exactly my point.
Right. Padres, Blue Jays 3-game series starting tonight in Toronto. Dylan Cease against Chris Bassett. Really good pitching matchup for game one of this series. Bassett's having a heck of a year, 3-2 with a 3.6 ERA. Strikes out almost 10 guys per 9 innings. That's above his career high. Is one of those guys, though. I mean, he doesn't go particularly long. Will go only 5 or 6 probably. An interesting first day pitching matchup.
His first 2 games of the year, I think one was 7, one was 6, quality starts. Has not had one since. I think maybe he went 6 innings once, but he gave up 4 runs or something like that. Has been really good. Like, I've seen this guy baffle the Padres and been also really bad against the Padres. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's not like one of these guys who you go, oh, wow, the Padres really struggle against them. They do. But they've also, I think I've seen him score 5 runs in 4 innings off him or whatever. So, yeah, that is an interesting one. And then Cease has found his slider and sort of found his fastball. And again, if history tells us something, of course, I wrote that about Manny when he's on the 14-game streak, and then he went on this hitless streak here. But anyway, if history tells us something about Dylan Cease, once he gets going like this, it lasts 6, 7, 8, 9 starts.
Right. You've got Randy Vasquez, Kevin Gossman in game 2. I think a big day for Randy Vasquez, just in terms of, we'll talk about this briefly, but Padres have some starting pitchers coming back. This is the guy who's been, again, a little volatile up and down. But he has a 2.12 ERA over his last 3 starts, striking out 13 while walking just 7. Pretty good for a guy who doesn't have a great command of the strike zone most of the time. Going up against Kevin Gossman, a very good veteran major league starter.
Kevin Gossman is the poster child of why I say I like the new schedule, where you not only get to see everybody, even though, by the way, for travel, the new schedule is really tough, but both on players and, I don't know, sports writers. But Kevin Gossman, the Padres saw him 6 times in 2021 when he was pitching for the Diamondbacks. It was just too much. It was just too much. I'm sorry. I know there's people that liked it, and I love the debate, and good for you. For me, they haven't seen him since 21. So, they're new, he's new. But that was just too much for me. Randy Vasquez, I would say, unless he falls off a cliff, he'll be here the whole season. There's been 2 bad starts, 3 really good starts, and the rest, whatever it is, 4 others, mediocre starts. He's a number 5 starter, man. Unless Kyle Hart, who has a 180 ERA in El Paso or something like that, and Stephen Kolek are just unhittable, and they got to make a decision because Yu Darvish is coming back, then, which is still a question. It really isn't, but it's when. So Vasquez has sort of become my old Quentin Jammer, where I stuck up for Jammer because he was better than what Charger fans thought. And he was. And he actually ended up proving it, and a lot of people came around on him. People just dump on Randy Vasquez, and he can be bad. He can be hard to watch with the walks and the hits. Take a look at his season. I realize you don't get to take 2 starts out, but that's something we do sometimes to talk about consistency. Take Dylan Cease's 2 best starts out. He's still got a 3 ERA, or 2 worst starts. Take Randy Vasquez's 2 worst starts out, and it's a 2.5. Randy Vasquez has been pretty darn good. He does not have the ceiling of Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease is going to get paid next year. But Randy Vasquez is a pitcher that Padres fans should be happy is controllable and will be a part of their rotation for a while.
Absolutely. And then we've got Stephen Kolek, a guy named Bowden Francis. I don't know who he is. He's 29. I don't know who he is. But again,
his first year as a full-time starter. So here we go. He's got 6 more starts than Stephen Kolek, but it's a matchup of 2 first-year starters.
Super interesting. Absolutely.
So, I don't know anything about him. That's it. That's all I got.
Really interesting matchup in general. I think that you can draw some connections between these 2 teams in terms of guys who they pay, in terms of how they've been built as a club. Really curious to see how the Padres match up against the Blue Jays here. Kevin, we're running out of time. In 2 minutes or less, what's the best part about traveling to Canada for work?
I'm sorry? Again, I'm thinking it's me. It's not you. It's me. What are we talking about in Canada here?
Traveling to Canada for work.
Yeah.
Give me the goods and the bads here.
You know what? It's basically like traveling to the United States, but with a few friendlier people, or more polite, I should say. Midwest, very friendly. South, very friendly. It's a beautiful city. Toronto is. I covered baseball back the first time I covered it. There was Montreal had a baseball team for the U Youngins. That's a city in Canada where they speak primarily French. It's a beautiful city, very European. I would love it if they got a team back. But Toronto is as close as you're also going to come. Extremely international. Extremely a lot of Asians, a lot of Korean people. There's incredible food here, which I happen to love Korean and Japanese food. It's nice. I like Rogers Center. It's an old, you could almost argue dumpy dome, but it's unique. And I think it's clean and neat. And the press box is out in left field. And so it's a totally different perspective. The amount of times I have to check myself that I wrote he had it to right field because you're just watching the game backward. It's crazy. I love it.
Good. You're not staying at the hotel in right field, are you?
No, I did last time, but it was you and somebody in the accounting office would have had a real problem with me staying there this time. I think there was a holiday yesterday. It's like their Memorial Day. I think it's Victoria Day. They had the playoffs here for hockey. It's a great sports town, by the way. I remember we came here in 19. The Raptors were in it, I believe. Huge celebration. I don't think it was a celebration this time. I don't watch hockey, but I got the impression from conversations I heard that the Habs are no, who's Toronto? The Maple Leafs. They didn't do very well. I am not staying there. That's a pretty cool hotel for the convenience, but I think it was like 500 Canadian.
Wow. I don't know what that
it
is
was
in
a lot.
American, but that's a lot.
It's too much.
It's too much. Fantastic. Well, Kevin, enjoy it. Happy belated Victoria Day. I was remiss to not bring this up earlier. Padres, Blue Jays, 3 games.
I got you a gift. It's waiting for you at the office.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Hot Lava Podcast. Padres, Blue Jays, 3-game series starting tonight in Toronto. For Kevin Acee, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.